So obviously, I'm going to start with, firstly, again, I'll just start over again. Firstly,
Okay.
thank you, Sharda ma'am, for, taking our time to speak with me today. And we'll be discussing everything within the sports realm in India. So my first question to you, obviously, is going to be, what do you have to say about performance of the Indian athletes in the Tokyo Olympics? Were you expecting such phenomenal performance, or were you expecting more out of them?
Hi, Taruka. Thanks so much for the invite to be here, and for all the good things that you've said. No, I mean, I was really excited by the performance in Tokyo because I belong to a generation for us where Olympic success was quite limited. So we're always sort of excited about every medal, and I think Tokyo was a genuine disappointment. Rio was a genuine disappointment, and what happened about Tokyo is that the way it ended with Neeraj Chopra's gold medal, I think that just blew everything out of the water, and we were just so happy as to the way it finished. It is our best performance at the Olympics, as everyone knows. I would have been happy, I would say, a few medals from shooting. I think that was the one sport. So we all did calculations before we, sometimes we did one in 2019 as well, August 2019, I remember at ESPN. And so I had said about 5 and 7 or something. I was just sort of playing it down. People said 10. Given the performance and how it turned out, I think a double figures would have been much more realistic given the amount of preparation and how people went in. I think shooting was the big disappointment in that sense. But otherwise, I can't complain. Every Olympic medal is precious and should be treasured.
Definitely. And do you think, the fact that athletes weren't able to practice that much due to COVID had a role to play in this? Because, when you're on the field, it's a different, experience and learning altogether, rather than when you're practicing in isolation.
I think it worked differently for athletes, that for the hockey teams, it worked better. For some of them, I think for the women, for example, had they competed in 2020, they possibly would have, but you're saying, this is their best performance. So what are we saying about it? A medal was maybe a medal could have come, but it's all up in the air. It's all supposition. The way the athletes tackled what they faced and the performances that they produced, we can say that they would have felt, a lot of them were absolutely ready the month or so before they cancelled, 8 weeks, 2 months, 3 months before they cancelled the Olympics. They were just peaking at the right time. But I think all in all, a very good performance. And what is admirable is how they were able to come out of this 1 year's gap. I think all of them really struggled with it to start with. It was a they didn't have access to gym. I mean, the swimmers made 8 times, which is they've never done. A couple of swimmers did that, so which is also quite exceptional. So their capacity to recover and to bounce back and to return to competition is something that we really have to appreciate and admire. And in that sense, that the odds were stacked against them in a way, but they were able to respond very well. I think maybe had the shooters, not the hockey players ones, had the shooters competed in 2020, we would have had.
Yes, and obviously, do you see, because we've had such a positive response from the entire country, they're stepping up. People are talking about not just cricketers but all the other athletes. Neeraj has become a star. Indian hockey teams are being spoken about, being felicitated everywhere they go. So do you think this has prompted a change in the perspective of how us Indians look at sports?
I think there are sort of Indians and there are Indians, so that there are Indians that are always committed to sport and love sport, and they respond to it and are interested. And there are others that are just sort of, they dip in and visit every time there's a success. What you would want, particularly Olympic sport. So cricket is the #1 sport in the country. There's no denying its popularity. What you would want is there to be a lot more respect for athletes from other sports, from the market, I think from industry, with reference to how they project them in their campaigns. I think our advertising industry is quite sloppy when it comes to sports campaigns across the board. I find that even in cricket. All they do is they put you there and they make you sell cola, that kind of thing. That would be nice if they're able to show and remind, because what sticks in your mind are ads about the people that in the 3 years in between, as to why Neeraj's performance was exceptional, why the performance of the boxers was exceptional. And it's not just you're talking about sweat and effort. You have to talk about their technical competence and their expertise. You need that projected out through advertising, for example, in a way that is far more smarter and far more intelligent than it has been done. I would like to see that. I would like, is there change? You would think that there would be a little bit more pressure on the federations. I think the change we want is not in the public. The public loves winners. The public loves sports people. The public loves people who try and fight. What you would want to see change is in how sports federations are governed and how they go about their business. A lot of it is quite medieval still. The response of the wrestling people to Vinesh Fogart was very disappointing. What's happening with Manika Batra, our table tennis player, is also quite bizarre. So you would want to, that is the change that you would want to see, because if you change governance and if you change administration, you will have greater sporting success, genuinely. I mean, it's absolutely as simple as that. It's got nothing to do with the public loving it. Your athletes will succeed if their governors and if their federation officials are more receptive to put their needs first ahead of themselves.
I think you're absolutely correct. Being an athlete myself and my mom being a sports gymnastics coach, so I've seen it all. I know the within story of the sports federation, but it's not easy. I mean, because they have this entire pyramid, and to break through that, and to have people who genuinely are concerned about sports person and genuinely want to promote a sport, it's going to be a very difficult road. And as you rightly said, there are still, they're not just medieval but ancient, because they don't understand the importance of mental health. A lot of federation people, they don't know that an athlete is not only performing physically, but he or she has to be in good shape both emotionally, mentally, and physically. So do you think it's been a few years since we've talking about mental health within the sports. Do you think it's actually reached the right years where people are actually, I know athletes are, they're talking about it, they're being open about it, and also telling that if they start speaking about mental health, they're perceived as weak, especially when recently a cricketer called Shrivats Goswami, he tweeted something similarly, that men will be perceived as weak and organization will tell them to just man up and things like that. And then in wrestling, like you said correctly, that but do you think this there is any relevant changes which have happened, which have triggered people to be more focused and more aware of other athletes' mental health?
I think the couple of things, Taruka, here, you said that, it's a very hard road to try and break down ancient and medieval attitudes. It's actually very, very simple. All these federations need to do is hire professionals to do their jobs. Hire professionals to say, okay, you're going to manage. There was an excellent tweet yesterday there was an excellent tweet yesterday which was about the wrestling nationals which are taking place at the Inspire Institute of Sport. So Vinay Sivach put out this tweet in which he had the wrestling nationals that were held by the Wrestling Federation and the wrestling nationals that are held by another organization. The private bodies that the wrestling people say, oh, they are terrible, they don't do anything for grassroots. You can see so it's professional management versus my Giri that goes on. The question of mental health is very important, because we've always talked about athletes being mentally tough, mentally prepared, mentally ready, but that has been with reference to performance. What Abhinav Bindra particularly, who is part of the IOC's Athletes Commission, says that here in Indian sport we have to understand the concept over and above performance is well-being. The mental well-being of an athlete starts before you can get into the mental performance side of the sport. And all of us have made this sort of mistake. We've sort of said, okay, let's hire a sports psychologist to make the team play better. But what about the person whose job is there to make the player feel more at ease, more secure, more safe? I mean, safety is a huge issue for male and female, for female and male athletes. We are hearing terrible stories about harassment and abuse of athletes, women and younger and boys as well. That is an issue that has not been talked about before. So when all these things are discussed, then you can maybe see a change coming in a younger generation. I mean, there is a generation that has lived its life out. I belong to that generation, perhaps, by being entitled to the power that it exercises. So maybe the younger generation will be different. We can be optimistic. Our younger athletes are doing such good things for us.
Absolutely. I hope you're right. And we are seeing, an evolving attitude when it comes to mental health. Even athletes are becoming more, aware, and they're trying to help others out. There's this team spirit they're building where nobody's trying to take the other person down, but rather help the other person also. Moving towards your journey, Sharda ma'am, you are such an exceptional person in the sports journalism in the country, or I would say globally as well. So, what prompted you to, pursue sports journalism?
Very flattering and very kind words. But like you, I was a lover of sport. Unlike you, I was not an athlete of any quality. I loved sports. I loved competing. I was a bit of a coward when it came to competing. I hated singles in badminton. I like doubles. Somebody has to share the load and take the blame. I played cricket as well, but at a very average and an ordinary level. What I also loved was reading, watching sports, reading about it, words and sports itself. And I was just fortunate that I was able to get that right break at that time. I was lucky, and I just didn't let go. It didn't matter that there was no other women around at the time when I was there in Bombay. But I said, this is a chance that will come. And in a way, over say about 20-30 years, your love for sport is tested. And I would like to think that I've come through. I love it enough to have come through 30 years of crazy stories and the traumas of cricket and of hockey at the Olympics and Leander versus Mahesh, and you've come out through all those things. So it's just that I'd always loved it. I'd always knew I would do something in journalism. I wanted to do something in journalism or library sciences, and other of my favorite things. That have been stuck in a library looking after books. I would have been perfectly happy. And but that it happened to be sports journalism was just serendipity. It was just fantastic that I got the chance to do it, and I'm happy that I'm still here, and I'm still. I still get angry enough, and I still get excited enough when I see something happening on a sports field.
And Sharda ma'am, being a woman, how difficult it was, because I mean, because I've been in that position and I see, people always have opinions. Or you look a certain, if she looks a certain way, she might not be good at her job. Or if she's talking to the, oh, she's just talking because she can get information out, and all these just mediocre things which are thrown at women, and say people saying that women don't understand sports as much as men do. So have you faced all these cliched
you do get a little bit of it. I mean, in my very early years, you were ignored by a lot of the senior male colleagues in your profession. Like, you are not there only. You're so invisible. So, but I had a great support and understanding from the office where I worked at Midday newspaper. They were exceptional bunch of young people at the time. We had a very young owner as well, and a person in charge of management. I mean, we could say things to him, Tariq Ansari, God bless you. We could say things to him and shout and scream. And it was like he was just happy that there was this newsroom was buzzing, And so because I had support from my office, it made a big deal. It made a massive difference. I think about it now, and I realized that if I joined a larger organization, there would have been a whole lot of interplay. There was nobody else in the sports department when I joined. The sports reporter had left. So I was the sports department, and then two other people joined, and we kind of got along. We had fun. And that made a big difference when you went out into the world, because where you were from, who was, they had your back, as the phrase is, that your office had your back. There are women who have worked in organizations that have been extremely cruel, that have been extremely difficult for them. I've been lucky. I started out in Midday, and then I kind of went along to various places. I usually worked in very small organizations, very small departments. So I never worked in a large department where there was sort of cut and dried kind of competition and rivalry and bitching and all that going on. The last company that I worked in at ESPN in Cricket for, the atmosphere was absolutely wonderful. It was just great camaraderie and friendship and help, and which you will not hear about in other organizations, in larger newspaper organizations, particularly. Maybe television, I don't know. But so you did hear those things. But if you had support at home, so to speak, on the home front was looked after, you realize that you never paid any attention to it. It just sort of went off your back. You made friends. I still have friends that are there from so many years ago. You made the friends that you make both amongst the athletes and the non-athletes, and those people have still stayed your friends. So it literally, you have to become a bit sort of like thick-skinned and not pay attention to what things say. And if your work quality is good, then it'll sort of push, it'll carry you through. Your energy and your love for and your enthusiasm for work will carry you through.
I think I totally agree on that. And I think not just women in sports journalism, just women in general have to face, these cliched comments and perceived notions. Which comes to my next question is, do you think more women are taking up sports and people are becoming serious about, women playing sports? Because we've had 2 medals, 3, sorry. And, women have done seriously great in Tokyo. I mean, better than men.
The last 20 years have been very, very dramatic for women in Indian sport. They've come through in a way that has not been seen before. So because I grew up in the 1970s, 1980s, 1990s, you had literally a handful of people, and now you've got them across sport. And a sport is very important for women to basically get a sense of confidence in themselves and in their bodies and in what they can do. And that the body in Indian society is usually, for a woman's body, is seen as a sort of object of shame or / honor, and for a girl to kind of break out of that. And I don't think, you have competed, so I don't think people living in the cities understand the different dynamics that are at play when women take to sport from parts from smaller towns, from villages. That whole thing of breaking away from what society wants you to do, or what society has fixed in your head as to what you should do. Sport plays a huge part in that, and a girl builds confidence when you played. I remember speaking to the women's hockey team, and that is what you heard across the board from all of them. The kind of confidence they get from sports, and more women will take to it because they've now got role models, they've got heroes, they've got people they can follow, and again across sports, hockey, cricket, you just name it, Indian women are competing in everything. A very important part in this is, say, in the Olympic Games, that the mandate that there should be equal medals for both. They're trying to push towards equality for medals. It says, this is too much political correctness, but the point is, it's a big push, and it's a very important part of to make up for the absence of, to make up for all the inequality that has existed in the past in sport. I mean, when a woman tried to run in a marathon, people tried to push her off the race course. All those things have happened so many years ago. This is in United States. The women's marathon, I think, was introduced into the Olympic Games, if I'm not wrong, in 1982. No, Moscow was 80, so 84 or 92. So it's like, I remember the time when the women's marathon was introduced for the first time, which you would think for someone of your generation is like, what? I said, yeah, I remember when there was no women's marathon. And I think it was 84, John Benoit won the first one, I think. So it's that kind of sort of life, sort of changes that you've seen both in global sport and in Indian sport. And the last 20 years have been absolutely fantastic for women. I would like there to be a little bit more women in executive management, in coaching, in those kind of positions of power, almost in organizations, in federations, running their sport, and hopefully that will happen at some point.
Do you think enough women are running organizations, sports organizations in India? Because we've seen a really accelerating trend globally. So many women are taking up top sports, CEO. We just recently saw FIFA 2023 World Cup, which is going to happen. And so many other sports, which is actually great, because the Western world, or the world except India, is realizing that women, really do great when it comes to leadership roles. and there's more inclusion and diversity, which is of course lacking here in India. Do you think this will? Do
I
you
think
think this is going to improve?
you would want it to improve because the numbers are really bad. So there are, I mean, there was a study I read this a few weeks ago, just before the Olympics, which said that the number of people in sort of on boards and in high positions in sport is almost only between 3% and 10%. You know, in this is worldwide sports organizations, not in India, in the West, where they do these studies and so on. And in India, the numbers is absolutely pathetic. And you just plant women that will respond to what the men, because they are replacing a male figure because of whatever, you know. So they do need to be more women in sport, because in positions of authority, and as to how they're able to carry out, you know, I have a very interesting sort of point to make. I was thinking about it just before I spoke to you, is that over the last, say, maybe 10, 15 years, women in Indian sport, you've seen quite a remarkable number of them coming up in positions of authority and organization. Manisha Malhotra, who works at the moment with JSW, she used to be a Fed Cup player. She was a competitive player, won an Asian Games medal. She worked with both the gold medalists in the Olympics, Abhinav Bindra and Neeraj Chopra. She was an athlete manager, a talent scout, you know. So that is the job that she does. And she worked originally with Mittal's Champions Trust that started and then shut after some time, the same way, to put in private money into helping elite athletes. There is Dipti Bopaya, who's involved with the Go Sports Foundation here in Bangalore, and she has been at the forefront of pushing forward the Paralympic athletes and their mission over the last, say, 10, it's like from the Go Sports is about 12, 13 years old. From the first day, they said elite athletes are elite athletes, whether you're athletes or you're para athletes, for us it's the same thing. And they have pushed through, and Dipti has been at the top of this sort of mission, and therefore the results that have come in Tokyo have been absolutely fantastic for the entire sort of Paralympics movement, whatever the Paralympics Federation is doing, and all the fights they're having. And I know Deepa Malik is in charge of them. That's another woman.
She's amazing. She's one really. I really like her, you know, camaraderie and her spirit, and it's so inspiring and encouraging whenever, you know, I've spoken with her, because I used to work with Orissa Sports before, Orissa government, where, you know, we were focused on grassroots to everything organizing, and then I moved to Orissa tourism. My next question is
one more name. Radhika Shriman, who was a daughter of a sports journalist, who is now who was in charge of the elite athletes at the Paralympics. She ran a Sai Center in Sonipat. She's a Sai official, Sai bureaucrat. So another woman there that has been through this last 20 years of seeing how things have changed. So you do have these women in these places, but they don't get talked about that much. They don't get written about that much.
No, that's great. I didn't know about Radhika. I definitely know Manisha, ma'am, because she's been a former, you know, tennis player, and we all know her since Mittal's Champions Trust, which was actually great. I think they should just revive that again, because it was a really great initiative, and it was doing really well. Maybe now with sports, you know, coming up more.
They have other organizations like it have also come. You know, the other organizations like that are there, and they do that kind of work as well. So Mittal, I think the Mittal Foundation, the people at Mittal felt that okay, we've done our bit and we're through, because this has been taken up by others as well. But yeah, I mean, that kind of expertise you won't find anywhere. And the interesting thing is that kind of expertise has come to be because your federations have been found wanting for doing the work that they needed to do. But that is another whole chapter. Never mind.
Absolutely. And do you think we've seen more interest from brands and, you know, industries coming forward to support our athletes, both male and female?
You would hope so. I want to see the kind of ads that will come out now soon that you will see. You'd want to see them supported. I know that what's happening now is because of COVID, the money's coming, the endorsement money's coming through these Instagram, what's it called?
Influencers.
That's what you get paid for, you know, rather than doing ads for them and so on. So which is it's a bit strange, but it's all right. It's money in the bank for an athlete, which is good. Excuse me. And so you would want to see them. I think there are organizations that are working around the sort of huge cricket, the elephant in the room that is cricket. to do stuff for other people. I just did a piece for HT a couple of days ago about the Rugby India. So there is Associated General Bank, which has supported the Rugby India, and their girls are the under 18 girls are at a tournament in Uzbekistan as we speak. They are in the semi-finals. So the semi-final finals is today. This is the first competitive match they have played in their lives. They've just been found from nowhere, and they have been picked into the program from by the Rugby India people, and that's what but they have support. They have Orissa government support, they have Associated General support, they've got support from a couple of other companies. So you do see smaller organizations saying, look, let's make an impact in another kind of a way, not in a way that is on TV the whole time, but in a way that on the ground you can see that does make a difference.
Yes, and also a lot of these organizations, they've launched their grassroots program, because I think that's where the talent lies. And we have, if we obviously look deeper, there's so much raw talent which can be, tapped in we can tap in the potential, and perhaps great players will come out of that. Do you think enough work, enough focus is there by whether it's SAI or state authorities at the grassroots level, or do you think there's scope of a lot of changes there?
I think at a grassroots level, what has happened, the sort of basic foundation point of a sport is a club unit, right? So a club or an organization, and then you compete at the district level, and then the state level, and the grassroots level. I mean, at the national level. But you ask yourselves, do we have that kind of pathway? Do we have that kind of competitive ladder structure available? It's not SAI's job or the government's job or the job of the private organizations to have the pathway structure. SAI's job is to give you stadiums to coach and to have tournaments in. They do that, And there are a lot of failings on it, but they do what they're supposed to do. The government's job is to provide money and funnel taxpayer money, which they also do. The private organization's job is to help the elite athletes, right? So whose job is it to make sure that these tournaments are run? You tell me. So exactly. The state federations, the state bodies, the national bodies, it's their job. I mean, there are people that are telling you that you have 2 national or 3 national championships a year, and then there's nothing. We don't know. The Swimming Federation of India doesn't have its own website. As far as I checked, last time I checked, it's got a Facebook page, and it's I can't find the website. Go and look for the website on the thing. I mean, they have it. They made it. I mean, it's a mistake. I'm happy to admit that I made a mistake. I'm looking for a Swimming Federation of India website. I can't find it. Like, what is this? Your athletes have done fantastic. You can't have a website.
Yes, absolutely. And I think athletes, when we talk about sports, every sport is.
Okay, I'm telling you. So it says your connection is not private. Something attackers, Chrome, advanced, high security.
So it happens. So you might want to try it via desktop. It happens with few of the websites. So
unsafe. Yeah.
We'll check it.
It's on. Swimming Federation of India, it says login. New to SFI games, click below to register. So it's not a website telling me about the swimming. It's saying, and the only people who can register in it are athletes and coaches. Public, we don't care. Go die.
I get it. Of course, this attitude and this, this needs to change. The problem I think I've faced is they don't want to change. They're so rigid. When you try to, give them ideas or tell them that this, because
it's too much work. It's too much work. They spend decades not doing work. It's too much of this thing to put in. Their whole job is to sort of keep power, hold on to power. I know it's unfair on all federations, but I'd say majority. That's what their job is. And the athlete their job is not to be the star and to perform and to become superstars. Their job is to come and do what is it called? Pai Lagu to them all the time. In whichever language you use it. Whatever is Pai Lagu, there must be translations across all Indian languages. So that is the problem that you're facing. And for a long time, when we were young journalists coming up, the narrative that we were sold by the federation officials, which stupidly we believed, was, oh, government is very bad. Government is not giving money. Government is not doing this. No, government is giving. What are you doing with money? So are you going to enforce that sports code that is there? You don't want to push it. I mean, there are ministers across governments, across parties that are involved in sports federations. You get them out of it, you get professional management, you will be able to see a change, And the unfair, so all these private organizations that have come in with money, their job is to help elite athletes because you are incapable of doing it. Your job is to look after the grassroots. What are you doing there? Please show me. I know the Athletics Federation of India on the TV, Adil Sumariwala said we have a huge districts program and whatever, and I want to find out more about it. So let's give it this thing over there. But yeah, I mean, I think now hopefully we can turn around and ask those questions to the federations: is what are you doing? What is your job? You know that statement that came out in the press that we gave 177 javelins when Neeraj Chopra won his medal, said we have spent 7 crores. Okay, thank you very much. I'm happy my 7 crores has gone towards that medal. My 7 crores means my portion of
Yes.
7 crores. We have given 177. No, you gave Neeraj Chopra 5 javelins. 177 went to other athletes, which is your job to give. What are you trying to tell the country? You know. So
Yes.
you hear all this kind of nonsense because in my, I've come to the conclusion after 30 years of working. I'm sounding like some real crank, crazy woman, but it's all right. That for most of the federations, they don't want superstars in their sport. They do because it frightens them that those people will become bigger than them. And we won't call them up and say, Sir ji, आप बताइए ये athletes क्या करने वाले हैं? ये क्यों हो रहा है? We will call up the athlete and ask them and say, Acha, are you happy? Is it okay? What's happening? Are they making your life miserable? They will be the focus of attention. They don't want. For hockey, it happened for so long. This is my firm belief. It is my theory. Anyone can come and kill me, but I will not change my mind.
No, that's absolutely true. And, this mindset, and I think, Sharda ma'am, people like you, we expect are supposed to be, questioning these federations. And I know a lot of people have started because,
Yes.
so just to tell you, I have these, it's been 1 year since I'm with the UP government now.
Right.
I'll be looking after the sports. So, lot of
Please have to
challenges.
put a proper cricket stadium.
Please, Sharda ma'am, please do come to Lucknow, and you should talk, people, because I am like, well, I'll not say it right here. I'll speak about it later. But yes, please do come over, and we would love to host you, and love to have some brainstorming sessions with you, because we really want to do well when it comes to grassroots level as well. The state, our Honorable Chief Minister recently announced that we are adopting wrestling, and there's a lot of focus on badminton as well. But how to go about it? The plan, the strategy is being made, and it has to be executed. So we will need, people like you.
The simple thing is you have to have like a calendar of competitions every season. In the rainy season, in the indoors, if you have indoors facilities, in the rainy season, indoors, in the winter time, outdoors, regular calendar. In Europe, people compete every year, every week for these events, athletics events, swimming events, everything. So there is a sustained calendar of events that these kids can compete in. But to have that calendar moving, work has to be done. You see, काम होना चाहिए.
Yes, I agree. Which is where we lag. Now, my last question is, obviously we won't leave cricket out. Do you think, because of whatever's happening, we've seen their praise and attitude of letting IPL go on when, the entire country was in shambles with COVID, like everyone, it was such a depressing atmosphere. Like, I don't think, I mean, some people argue that, cricket would like keep the mind off, but that wasn't the time when you had to, keep your mind off. You had to actually confront with what was happening all around you, and, you had to come out of it. So do you think now cricket is just all about money? That spirit, that gentleman's game, all those things.
I mean, this happens with all sports when they become successful and huge and professional. That's the thing. It's too big a giant. You can't tame it. You have to work a way around it. All the European football leagues also took place, but the whole point was that there was not devastation taking place outside the doors of your stadium. Outside the gates. So that was the thing. I don't think if there were people dying on the streets of Europe for want of oxygen, I don't think they would have had a football league. No one would have allowed that football league to happen. They would have been, because the football league in Europe is professionally very successful and everything, but it's controlled by community. I mean, it's run by clubs that are centered on community. And these are city franchises that you had the IPL taking place on. So I think at that time, what was happening was that they did not want to accept that there was something wrong with the situation in the country. That is what, because there was political influence being made to place. Like, please keep playing. Like, nothing has happened. Please keep playing. It's okay. You can have the ambulances with you. And that is the thing that then turned it was responded. Again, lack of professional management in the BCCI would have said, sir, this is looking terrible. Let us at least do some black bands and whatever. So I did an interview with Lalit Modi, at that time. Whatever Lalit Modi is involved in his financial scam, whatever, I don't know. I haven't got into it or investigated it. But I asked him, I said, what would you have done if you were in charge of it? And within 2 seconds, he had come out with absolutely the smartest piece of, it is only a public relations exercise. It's only visual, but at least communicate with your people. That is the absence. So it's not the fact that there are no people in BCCI that don't care about these things. The fact is that the people who are in power are so blinded by their power and by their influence, and suddenly they've become important. I'm not about Saurav Ganguly, who's done a lot in cricket himself. They are just so taken up by their own sort of importance and in the world because of the position they occupy, not because of who they are. That they pretended like that they didn't have to pay attention to that. And eventually what happened? Your bio bubble collapsed because you had given it to an amateur sort of company. And there was sort of amateur sort of stuff was going on. So your bio bubble collapsed and players started getting infected. And you had to go, and now it's starting again. It's starting in the Gulf. I don't know who's doing the bio bubble there. But you would want them to respond to the public. You're not bigger than the public. The public have made you, you know. So that reminder needs to be there for everyone who's in that office in power. I don't think the people there is a huge organization. The spirit of the game is alive in the sense that there are kids playing everywhere. Everyone wants to succeed. Cricket has done enormous amount to changing the lives of thousands of, hundreds of players, you know. So there are good things about it, but it's management, organization structure, professionalism. All that is where you see these huge gaps and these huge sort of lacunae, if I can use this word, that are there.
Perfect. Thank you so much, ma'am, for sparing your time today. I've had a great conversation, and we have so much to now talk about off the camera. And
thank you. I really enjoyed it.
Yes, and I hope you come down to Lucknow someday, and we would really love to host you. And there's so much to do. I mean, our focus is really now, like, I really want to help grassroots. There are so many initiatives we've started. It just one of those to tell you about is Mission Shakti, where Mission Shakti in every district, we organize these programs to raise awareness, not just about teaching girl child or women sports, but also to raise awareness about their rights. What can they do when something at house goes wrong, or the schemes which are there for them from which they can benefit, and their personal safety. So these are the things which we are doing as part of Mission Shakti, and sports is one aspect of it, because 24 crore people in our state. So sports does take a backseat because of other things which are prevalent in the state, but that is our focus as well. And so many women are doing well. You've seen Priyanka Goswami, we've seen Shalini, we've seen Vanna Kataria, and Vanna Kataria was in hostel with me. I was part of the sports hostel in Lucknow. So these are the things we would love to discuss. And thank you so much. And it was great speaking with you. And I'll keep in touch with you.
Thank you, Tarika. Thank you so much. I enjoyed.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks.
Okay.
Bye, ma'am.
Bye.
Praveen.
Yes, ma'am.
Recording off कर दो.
Sure.